The morning sun cast long shadows across the Quantico training facility as I stood before the most elite tactical unit in the country. My name is Alexandra Chen, and at 28, I had already spent 6 years as a Marine Corps sniper. But standing here, facing the legendary Shadow Division, I felt like a rookie all over again. "So, you think you can keep up with us?" Commander Marcus Stone's voice cut through the crisp Virginia air like a blade. His steel-gray eyes assessed me with the kind of cold calculation that made lesser soldiers wither. Behind him, 12 of the most decorated special operators in military history stood in perfect formation, their silence more intimidating than any verbal challenge. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you." I had fought for 3 years just to get this tryout. The Shadow Division didn't recruit, they selected. One slot had opened after Sergeant Rodriguez retired, and somehow, my name had surfaced from the thousands of elite soldiers across all branches. The invitation came with no explanation, just coordinates and a time. "Yes, sir," I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the hurricane of nerves in my chest. Stone stepped closer, close enough that I could see the small scar above his left eyebrow, a souvenir from some classified operation I'd never hear about. "You know what we do here, Chen. Counter-terrorism, deep reconnaissance, asset elimination." The textbook answers felt inadequate as they left my lips. "Wrong." His smile was sharp as broken glass. "We do the impossible. When Delta Force calls in sick, when SEAL Team 6 hits a wall, when the CIA runs out of options, they call us." He gestured to his team. "These 12 operators have a combined 847 confirmed kills. They've prevented 14 major terrorist attacks that the public will never know about. They've extracted assets from countries that don't officially exist." My mouth felt dry as desert sand. "And you," Stone continued, circling me like a predator, "are a sniper from Camp Pendleton with a pretty impressive record, I'll admit. 43 confirmed kills across 2 deployments. Expert marksman rating. Purple Heart for that incident in Kandahar where you held off insurgents for 6 hours with a damaged rifle." The way he said it made my proudest achievements sound like participation trophies. "But this isn't the regular Marines, Chen. This isn't even recon. This is the apex." He stopped directly in front of me. "You want to join the Shadow Division? Then prove you belong." The challenge was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. 20 targets, each the size of a playing card, positioned at varying distances from 100 to 800 meters. But here's the catch, they weren't stationary. Each target was mounted on a computerized system that moved them in unpredictable patterns. Figure eights, spirals, sudden stops and starts. "You have exactly 10 seconds, Stone announced as his team gathered around the observation deck. 20 shots, 20 hits. Miss even one, and you're on the next transport back to Camp Pendleton." I stared at the rifle they'd provided, a custom 308 with modifications I'd never seen before. The scope was unlike anything in my experience, with digital readouts that seemed to anticipate wind patterns and atmospheric pressure. "This is impossible," muttered Sergeant Williams, a man with arms like tree trunks. "Even our best shooters need at least 30 seconds for this course." "That's the point," replied Lieutenant Martinez, the team's designated marksman. "If she can't do the impossible, she doesn't belong here." I lifted the rifle, feeling its weight, its balance. The familiar comfort of cold steel and precision engineering began to calm my racing heart. This was what I lived for, the moment when everything else faded away except the target, the rifle, and the absolute certainty of physics. But 20 shots in 10 seconds at moving targets? "You know," Stone said conversationally, "Rodriguez held the record for this course. 18 hits in 15 seconds. Took him 4 tries to achieve that." The message was clear. I was being set up to fail. I closed my eyes and let my mind drift back to my childhood in rural Montana. My father, David Chen, was a second-generation Chinese-American who'd married my mother, Sarah Littlefeather, a woman whose Crow heritage ran deeper than the roots of the prairie grass. They'd taught me to hunt not for sport, but for survival and respect. The rifle is just an extension of your soul, my father had told me during my first deer hunt at age 12. Don't aim at where the target is, aim at where it's going to be. Feel the rhythm of the world around you. My mother had taught me something else. In our tradition, we believe that every shot carries the spirit of the hunter. If your spirit is true, if your purpose is clear, the arrow or bullet will find its mark. Standing here now, I understood that this wasn't just about marksmanship. This was about proving that a half-Chinese, half-Native American woman from the middle of nowhere could stand among legends. "Ready when you are," Stone called out. I opened my eyes and assumed position. The targets began their dance, 20 small squares, moving in chaotic patterns across the field. My breathing slowed, my heartbeat steadied. The world narrowed to just me and those moving targets. Begin. What happened next would be replayed in slow motion on training videos for years to come. The first target was moving left to right at 200 meters. My rifle tracked it smoothly, and I squeezed the trigger with the gentle pressure my father had taught me. The shot echoed across the range. Hit. I didn't wait to confirm. I was already tracking the second target, a card spiraling at 350 meters. The rifle swung smoothly. Hit. The third target was the tricky one, jerking up and down at 150 meters. I led it perfectly, accounting for its erratic pattern. Hit. Time seemed to stretch like warm honey. Each shot flowed into the next with mechanical precision. My hands moved without conscious thought, my body finding the rhythm that my parents had taught me to hear in the wind and the grass and the heartbeat of the earth itself. Target 4. A figure 8 pattern at 500 meters. Hit. Target 5. Sudden stops and starts at 275 meters. Hit. I could hear Stone counting behind me. 5. 6. 7. The rifle became an extension of my spine, my arms, my very will. I wasn't thinking anymore, I was just being. Each target appeared in my scope already perfectly aligned, as if the universe itself was conspiring to guide my shots. Target 8, hit. Target 9, hit. Target 10, hit. Halfway through, with 5 seconds remaining, the last 10 targets were the most challenging distances, ranging from 600 to 800 meters, moving in complex patterns that would challenge even computerized systems. But I was no longer operating on human reflexes. I had become something else, something that existed purely in the space between intention and result. 15. 16. 17. The rifle sang its deadly song, each shot perfectly timed, perfectly placed. I could feel my ancestors guiding my hands, generations of hunters who had fed their families with nothing but skill and patience and absolute respect for their weapons. Target 18 vanished in a puff of debris. Target 19 dissolved at 750 meters. And then, with perhaps half a second remaining, I found target 20 in my scope, a card doing a complex spiral at maximum range. I exhaled slowly, squeezed the trigger, and watched the final target explode into fragments. Silence that followed was profound. I lowered the rifle and turned to face Stone and his team. Every one of them stood frozen, staring at me as if I'd just walked on water. "Time," Stone said quietly, checking his stopwatch. His face was unreadable. 9.8 seconds. The silence stretched longer. 20 hits, confirmed Martinez. From the spotting scope, his voice barely above a whisper. 20 perfect hits. Sergeant Williams shook his head slowly. "I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen anything like that." Stone approached me, his expression still unreadable. For a moment, I thought he might dismiss it as luck, demand I do it again, find some reason to send me home. Instead, he extended his hand. "Welcome to the Shadow Division, Sergeant Chen." The debriefing that followed revealed what I'd actually accomplished. The previous record, Rodriguez's 18 hits in 15 seconds, had stood for 3 years. No one had ever achieved 20 hits in under 10 seconds. In fact, according to the computer analysis, my performance fell within the realm of statistical impossibility. "How?" Stone asked as we sat in his office later that day. The question wasn't challenging, it was genuinely curious. I thought about my answer carefully. "I stopped trying to be fast," I said finally. "Speed was the enemy. Instead, I just tried to be inevitable." He nodded as if that made perfect sense. "There's something else," I continued. "When I was growing up, my mother told me stories about warriors who could become one with their weapons. I always thought they were just stories. And now," I smiled, "now I think maybe the stories were instructions." That night, alone in my assigned quarters, I called my parents. My mother answered on the first ring, as if she'd been waiting. "How did it go, little hawk?" she asked, using the childhood nickname she'd given me after watching me track a rabbit for 3 hours with unwavering patience. "I made the team," I said. "Of course you did." There was no surprise in her voice, only quiet pride. "Your grandmother dreamed of eagles last night. She said one of her bloodline would soar among the clouds." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Dad around?" "Right here, sweetheart," came his familiar voice on the extension. "I'm proud of you, Alex. But more than that, I'm proud of how you carried yourself. Your spirit was true." The next morning brought my first official briefing as a member of the Shadow Division. The mission details were classified beyond my current clearance level. But Stone made one thing clear. We would be deploying within the week. "Chen," he said as the briefing concluded, "that performance yesterday wasn't luck." "Was it?" "No, sir." "Good, because where we're going, luck won't be enough." He handed me a file marked with security classifications I'd only heard whispered about. "Study this. And Chen, welcome to the impossible." As my new teammates filed out, Martinez paused beside my chair. "Just so you know," he said quietly, "that was the most incredible display of marksmanship I've ever witnessed. And I've worked with some legends. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what we're going to ask you to do next." 6 months later, I would find myself on a rooftop in a city that doesn't appear on any map, providing overwatch for an operation that officially never happened. The targets would be real, the stakes impossibly high, and the margin for error non-existent. But that morning at Quantico, holding that file in my hands and feeling the weight of my new role settling on my shoulders, I understood that everything in my life had led to this moment. The hunting trips with my father, the stories from my mother, the years of training and combat, all of it had been preparation for becoming something I'd never dared dream I could be. I was no longer just Alexandra Chen, Marine sniper. I was Raven, Shadow Division Operator. And as I walked out of that briefing room, I could swear I heard the whisper of wind through prairie grass, carrying the voices of all the warriors who had come before me, welcoming me home. The elite unit had said, "Prove it," and in 9.8 seconds, I had proven everything. Epilogue: 3 years have passed since that day at Quantico. The missions I've completed remain classified, but the 20-target course has become legendary within special operations communities. They call it the Raven Standard now, and it's used to benchmark the absolute peak of human marksmanship. Capability. New candidates still attempt it. None have come close to my record, but more importantly, the Shadow Division has evolved. We've recruited 2 more women since my arrival, both exceptional operators who bring their own unique strengths to our team. The impossible, it turns out, becomes possible when you stop defining it by limitations and start defining it by potential. Commander, Stone retired last year, but not before telling me something I'll never forget. Chen, in 30 years of military service, I've seen courage take many forms. But what you showed that day, that wasn't just skill. That was the kind of faith in yourself that moves mountains. He was right about one thing. We do the impossible here. But what he didn't understand until much later is that sometimes the impossible is just someone else's limited imagination meeting an unlimited spirit. And sometimes, all it takes is 9.8 seconds to change everything. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.